Hi everyone, this is Board Games and Bourbon. I'm Glenn Flaherty, and right now I want to tell you about the new capstone game, Watergate, which is a two-player political but really war game set in the Watergate affair. And I got to tell you, it is a really, really awesome two-player game that kind of ties itself back to traditional war games, but it has a very modern rub on it that not only keeps it fresh, but it's so immersed and steeped in the theme. It's one of the rare games that makes you want to investigate the topic far beyond your plays of the board. Okay, so what makes this modern and what ties it to older games? Well, the whole game is basically a initiative-based game. You have different trackers, and there's actually going to be a third thing over here called evidence that we're going to bring out. And you have these different items that you are trying to, by the end of the round, get on your side of the board. You're playing either as the Washington Post trying to impeach Nixon, or as the Nixon administration trying to delay and obfuscate and just get away with it by running out the clock. Now that's its underpinning, and that'll be really familiar with any war games, probably most notably if you played Twilight Struggle, but also if you played 13 Days or Iron Curtain or any of an, endless litany of games that kind of do that thing. What makes it really modern is that it's not superficial. It's not one plane. You have lots of different things going on here. In fact, you really have 4 different games going on here. And the 4 different games are working in different ways. You have these sliding scales of you want initiative, you want momentum, you want evidence. Then you have a spatial game that you're playing over here where you're trying to draw connections from Nixon to informants. One of the games is just getting informants onto the board. You're trying to identify who an informant is, and then you're trying to create the trail. But you can not only physically make a trail to a person, you can block it if you're the Nixon administration. So it works in many different ways. Now, before I get too ahead of myself, let me just explain how card play works, and that'll give you a sense for what's going on. There's many different steps here, so I hope this is as clear as possible. When we start the game, the person who starts with the most cards is going to be the newspaper, the Washington Post. And the Washington Post is going to draw 5 cards. They have initiative, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now, this is important because the Nixon administration will only start with 4 cards. However, the Nixon administration in future rounds might get initiative if we can move this initiative tracker to their side by the end of a round. And a round is over when all the cards are played. The Nixon administration always chooses evidence to put on the board, and essentially they have this bag where they don't know what they're grabbing. There's a whole bunch of chits. They're going to be in that bag, and then you just randomly draw. Now, normally these would be hidden, but we're going to turn these over for some examples. And let me put one extra one over here just for debate. Okay, I'm going to change it and put that out here. Okay, so this evidence is here, and we're trying to get this on our different sides. Over here, we're going to deal with this in a second. We're going to try to build some physical pathways to evidence. And I'm going to explain the importance of each of these items in the game. So the first card we have here, now we're looking at the Washington Post, okay? The Washington Post has this right here. And the first thing it says is it has blue 4. It has a little token that can be moved, and then it has an event regarding Martha Mitchell. What this means is I can move a blue piece of evidence towards me 4 units. So if I wanted to play that card, I would say I would like to move a piece of evidence 4 unit towards me. Nixon has to tell you if there is even blue evidence available, because remember, this is hidden. You don't know what it is. If it's not available, they have to say not available, and then you do some other action. If it is available, you may certainly have it. So sometimes the information that you're going to get will be completely blue, okay? And if it's a completely blue piece, it moves 4 towards you, and it stays there. Again, once all the cards run out, if it's on your side, you're going to take this, and you're going to try to build a network somewhere in the blue section of the board, building your way to possible informants, okay? Another type of blue piece that could come out is this. This is really scary. This is blue plus a red dot, and the red dot will not only be the blue piece moving 1, 2, 3, 4 towards you. The red dot means the red will move towards you 1 as well. And if the red is on your side, you get to take this red piece and you get to take the momentum, it's called, and put it on your personal placard over here. Each of you are going to have these little placards that go to 5. For the Nixon administration, it's very clear cut. You want to get 5 red tokens, and if you can do that, you've won the game because you've waited out the clock. If you can get 5 tokens as the Washington Post, you are triggering different effects. Not quite the same. They're not quite mirror images. 1 and 2 don't do anything, but if I had 3 red tokens on my board, it would let me draw an evidence token and put it face up on the evidence board. If I get down to 4, I would be able to remove 1 face down evidence token from the board, meaning if a piece of evidence had been moved to the Nixon side and they won it, they don't put this on the board. They actually flip it over and they've blacked it out. They've obfuscated some trail. Where are they going to put this? Well, if you had been building a trail to the blue side of the board, they might say, you know what? I'm going to cut you off. I'm going to put it right there. And I've cut off access mostly to this informant that would have been right there, Mitchell. We're not going to do that. So when evidence goes to their side, they black it out. When it comes to your side, you're actually using it to build a case. Lastly, if they could have moved the red marker and had 5, they would have impeachment. Flip 1 evidence token on the evidence board face up. So that could have undone a blocked path. Okay, so this is one game. It's a stronger game for Nixon because you're waiting out, but this gives you powers. Remember, if you move the white, you get initiative and lets you draw more cards and more flexibility. Also an extra turn. Okay, so I could have done it for the blue and moved evidence in my way. 2, I had the option of moving 1 of the tokens, trying to get either the initiative to draw extra cards or to get a momentum token in place on my board. Okay. Lastly, I could play an event. And this right here says that I could have put Martha Mitchell into the available informants and she would have gone on the board. Once you're on the board, you're pretty much fine. But the problem is, once I do that, I have to remove the card from the game. I've removed all of these other abilities. A very powerful move for a piece of blue evidence 4 spaces towards me is out of the game. So there's a timing element that's really, really critical. As far as the Nixon administration, they draw 4 to start the game. Okay, but they have really oh, look at that. Martha's there again. Now, had Martha already been on the sidelines, not already identified, what I could have done is I could have either moved blue towards me 4, I could have moved either my initiative or my momentum tracker. See, I could win the game that way. That sounds great. As Nixon, I can win the game by getting up to 5 or blocking off the paths to everyone. It's kind of neat. I could have done that, or I could have secured the support of Martha, and I could have flipped her over and blacked her out. And she would, can you see that on the board? And now I've totally obfuscated who she is, gone. Not even useful, unless I can flip a card somehow. But again, I have to get rid of this card out of the game. Bummer. Here, what it says is I can move a piece of green evidence to. Again, I could move a token, or it says an event. Move the momentum token to the 5 space on your side of the research track. Holy moly. So as the Washington Post, I could have been doing so much, working so hard to ensure that momentum was on my side. But if they play that, boom, 5 over to the other side. And then it says, remove this card from the game, or remove 1 conspirator in your hand from the game. And removing a conspirator like G. Gordon Liddy, that's pretty powerful. His card says I can move any piece of evidence 2 spots. I could move a token 2 spots, or as a conspirator, it says I remove 1 face up evidence token from the research track and return it to the bag. And I do not have to remove this card. I could do that over and over and over. So that's a powerful card, just taking evidence right out. But if I played the previous card, maybe I have to get rid of it. So there's a lot of really interesting choices here, and everything you do makes sense. Like some games, when you have actions, they're just kind of there. Like in Puerto Rico, it's a game that has a follow action, and if somebody does something, the follow action says you can do it too. Why? Because they did it first. But not here. Everything makes sense. It's so entrenched in the atmosphere of the game. I'm really, really enjoying it. And, it is one of those games that makes you want to learn more about it. And I don't know if I've already mentioned this, but the Watergate pamphlet that tells you how to play, kind of like an Eklund game, has a huge essay section in the back where it talks about details of it, what went on. Now, this is very factual, whereas I think Eklund is usually essays. But this is so well written, it really made me want to learn more. I went on Prime and Netflix, was trying to watch documentaries, and I got to tell you, what is in the back of this book is way better than you can find there. I actually have to go get articles offline because the documentaries, are paltry compared to what's in the back of here. Great game, learning game, historical game. The playtime in it, I will say, it says half an hour to 60 minutes. I think if you really, really know what you're doing, you're done in 20. I think most games will be a half hour. And if you're learning the game, probably 45 minutes. Or maybe if you've really transcended into amazing players, you go that full hour. But boy, what a great game. Highly recommended. That's Watergate. If you're looking for a 2-player game, go ahead and get it. I think it's worth the experience. I really, really do. Okay, so if you have questions about gameplay, let me know. Happy to answer. And again, friends, take care. I will talk to you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.